Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Ayşe Süberkaş. It's the latest sign that once bitter rivals, Turkey and Greece, are putting past differences behind them. Just 3 years ago, tensions in the Aegean were at their highest in years, with Ankara and Athens engaging in military standoffs, both at sea and in the air. But now things are much calmer, following NATO-led drills the two neighbors participated in. The naval exercise came earlier this month and follows a year of diplomatic breakthroughs that included Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's visit to Athens in December. In February, the country's two defense chiefs also agreed to join a German-led missile shield system. The rapidly improving ties between the two NATO allies comes as the alliance welcomed its newest member, Sweden, which officially joined last week. Ankara has been pressing Washington to follow through with its promise to sell dozens of F-16 fighter jets after giving the green light to Sweden's bid. But what differences remain within NATO? And for more on Turkey, Greece ties and Sweden's accession into NATO, joining me now from Athens is Dimitri Triamfiliou. He is a professor at Pantheon University of Social and Political Sciences. And from Uppsala, Sweden, Greg Simons. He is an independent researcher and a political analyst. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. So, Dimitri, how far have Turkey-Greece relations come since Turkish President Erdogan visited Greece last December?
Well, I think we need some patience to see, the full impact of this visit and the future. I mean, one should say that this new cycle in rapprochement started last summer on the margins of the Vilnius NATO summit, where a plan was announced, where ministers, foreign ministers would meet, deputy foreign ministers, other ministers, leading up to the December meeting between President Erdogan and Prime Minister Mitsotakis. And in fact, the plan was maintained. And not only that, but I think everyone was pleasantly surprised that there was this Athens Declaration signed, which is a political declaration of intent, which states a lot of things that are expected to be done to move forward in terms of the positive agenda. And in fact, we just had a meeting yesterday with between the Turkish deputy foreign minister and his Greek counterpart in Ankara. And, they evaluated the progress, and the progress seems that many things are being done, right? And I think so what we actually have in this period is a trust-building sort of process, which means a lessening of tensions, even rhetorically, which is, I think, even more important sometimes than, tensions with overflights and other things happening in the air or at the sea. So rhetorically, there's a reducing of tensions. And I think some sort of drawing up of a game plan of how to move forward to maintain this lessened tensions. And already you have some deals being signed, the visa deal that was announced in Athens, where 10 Greek islands Turks could actually visit 10 Greek islands with the minimal visa requirements for a particular period. This is going to start, from what I understand, to function at the end of the month, at the end of March. There's progress on civil protection issues. There's discussions among the relevant ministers on issues of migration. So I think we are in a trust-building phase. And in that sense, the visit in December showcases that.
So, Greg, how do you see the shape of both country relations, and how will this latest naval drills contribute to NATO's unity and confidence-building measures, as Dimitri mentioned, between the two countries?
Okay, well, I mean, you have bilateral relations, which are one thing. So, I mean, it's understandable why you'd want to have trust building, given the specific history and relations between Turkey and Greece. But if we're looking at the bigger, broader picture, I mean, you have the rhetoric of unity, but it's looking very frayed. And the thing that is really fraying it is the issue of the Ukraine war and the direction that is heading. Now, a year ago, it was all this talk about a Ukrainian victory. Now it's looking anything but. And this is what is going to break the countries apart in terms of their national interest versus other interests. And we can already see where Macron tried to appeal to the domestic constituency and to try and prove himself to be some kind of leader, which he is not, of Europe. And you can see the reactions of Hungary, Slovakia, and other countries which said no. So while it's important to have bilateral relations, I think the unity, so-called, of NATO is going to unravel more and more as the outcome of the Ukraine war becomes abundantly clear, and the politics of war make the influence felt.
So, Dimitri, judging by the latest drills and contacts, will the two countries be able to maintain what they call a positive momentum moving forward? And if not, what are the challenges?
Yeah, I have a feeling they would be able to maintain this for a while. Obviously, Greg is right. It's not just tied to the, it's not just in terms of bilateral relations. It's part of a wider equation, security in Europe and their responsibilities. And this is something one should not forget. You just put down, we could see that both Greece and Turkey joined NATO in 1952. Well, as two states with, external borders of NATO and flank states in Southeastern Europe, they have a special responsibility on top of trying to mend the relations for the wider security of the region. And in that sense, there's a commonality of interest, not in everything. Greece has a very pro-NATO, pro-EU, pro-West policy. Turkey is, has a more autonomous approach, but nevertheless, both are interested and concerned about not just the Ukraine war, what is happening in the Middle East, and the developments beyond the Middle East in terms of global patterns of trade and other factors. And therefore, they both feel that they need to deal with all these issues. And that's why, for example, I mentioned migration. Yes, bilaterally it's a concern, but it has wider concerns. I mean, it's not just Turks coming to Greece illegally. It's people on the move from other parts from conflict zones via Turkey, and so this shows the concern in Turkey proper and in Greece proper. So I think the frame, what is missing right now is the next steps. I mean, we had a framework until this December meeting, and of course, the meeting yesterday and the plans for the two leaders to meet again in May. And I think what needs to be discussed is some sort of framework to ensure somehow that this relationship is somehow framed in such a way that, albeit the differences which exist and will continue to exist unless both sides really decide to start compromising, there is a mechanism in place that would allow for the two countries, given the wider security concerns, keep talking to each other.
So, Greg, meanwhile, Sweden has officially become a NATO member. How would that change the military alliance's posture amid the conflicts of Ukraine, Gaza, and further south?
Well, I doubt it's going to have much impact on Gaza because this, while there is a split here in Sweden on Gaza, it's a little bit beyond concern. The main concern is Ukraine and Russia. But if we look at it, it's a lot of measure of activity. But if we look at the measure of effect, I don't think it increases NATO strength that much. It increases NATO's borders. It increases NATO's ability to potentially dominate the Baltic Sea. But I don't think Sweden really knows what it's in for. One can draw parallels, if we like, to the period of the summer of 1941. You had a lot of different countries along the Soviet Union's border, but that did not translate into victory. Because you have to defend that border. If you increase the number of countries, you increase the number of different sources of national interest. So you're actually increasing plurality and potentially create issues within the organization itself if it relies solely on the issue of consensus.
So, Dimitri, what do you think of Sweden's membership? Do you think Moscow will revisit its policies towards a wider region?
Look, I think, first of all, a country like, be it Sweden or any one of our countries, Greece or Turkey, decided to join NATO, primarily motivated by their national prerogatives. And Sweden decided, after decades of neutrality, that neutrality did not guarantee its security, and therefore it felt it had to join NATO to ensure its security. And by joining the alliance, yes, we have an alliance of 32 countries, geographically disparate in terms of size and interests, may be different. But on the other hand, all these 32 countries, or most of them, also understand the need, the responsibility to maintain the alliance alive, because it acts as a security guarantee. And this is particularly the case for small or very small or medium-sized countries, be it my country, be it Sweden, and so on. So I think it brings added value because it shows some sort of resolve, albeit the differences. Even throughout its history, NATO, always there were differences among member states. Yes, maybe they were more nuanced during the Cold War. You see them more today in the post-Cold War era of the last 30 years. But nevertheless, the fact that the alliance has grown also shows that, with Sweden, with Finland, and so on, it shows that countries taking part in the alliance see validity in it. So I think this is part of the message that Russia also sees in the larger scheme of things. It might not have an immediate impact in terms of the resolution of the war in Ukraine, but I think in terms of what it means, even in the post-Ukraine war setting and in terms of European security, well, the alliance seems to be here to stay. And if it's not here to stay, the fact that Sweden, just like Finland, are EU member states, it also shows that there's a debate going on within the EU to do more in terms of defense. Much more difficult, but nevertheless something that is starting to be discussed and actually being implemented. So I think this is what Russia sees, and I think this is what the members of NATO also see.
So, Greg, Turkish and US foreign ministers have recently met, and they relaunched the Turkey-US counterterrorism consultations during the strategic mechanism to cooperation against terrorism. What's happening on that camp? I mean, what kind of changes are we likely to see in both countries' strategic interests moving forward?
Well, as far as I would see it, the US is trying to bring Turkey into the framework of this US-centric view. I mean, it will try and curtail quite a bit of this independent foreign and security policy that Turkey has been pursuing in terms of its own security and interests, which the US has been putting at risk since at least 2003. So this would be my understanding, that it's trying to cultivate a more, could we say, pliant Turkey within this NATO framework, but using this counter-terrorism as an issue. Because, I mean, Turkey's positions on the Kurds, for example, is a problem for the US. The US are using Kurds as a proxy in their various wars in the Middle East. And this is also a problem for Turkey's security as well.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.